Greetings and welcome. My name is Mike Bankhead. I am your host. I am a bass player and songwriter from the Gem City in Dayton, Ohio. Today I welcome to the podcast singer, songwriter, musician, author, teacher, mom, Lesley Barth from Nashville, Tennessee. I think you're really going to like this one today. Our conversation goes a few places. You'll learn about how she got started making music. You'll learn about her book. You'll learn about how you can see her talk in 3 weeks. Let's go. So now it's official. On the record.
On the record.
Good evening, Lesley Barth, sometimes Ramsey. Not when you're making music, but other times, right?
Yes. It's funny because in my real life, sometimes people will ask me, like at a doctor's office or something, and they'll be like, last name, and I'm like, Ramsey. Like I have to pause for a second and think the context, but it's kind of nice. It was a nice way for me to kind of blend that. This has been a really interesting period for me, like artist wise, because I released an album in May of 2020. I was just going to segue into that, but don't stop. Oh yeah, perfect. Okay, we're on the same page. And obviously that was sort of a few months into the pandemic, and right after I released it, I sadly had a miscarriage and was dealing with that, and the world was on fire, and I just had no desire to be promoting an album and talking about myself. And so it feels like I've pressed paused a little bit on like my artist career from that time, although I've been doing like concerts for patrons, and I'm actually writing the past, 4 months, maybe been writing a song a week with this songwriting group. And that's been awesome. Cool. Yeah, very fun. But I think I'm in. That album was very much me writing songs to like heal a bunch of things. And it doesn't, this is a bold claim, but like, it doesn't work that way. I've sort of found out like it doesn't mean that it's not good, or it doesn't mean that it doesn't help you, but it's more of a catharsis, I think, writing those songs. And it's like an artistic expression, and like just me saying, this is how it feels. And you get a lot out of being able to accurately describe how things feel and connect with other people about it. I mean, I think that's really the thing in live shows, when you can kind of, or even online, is just all it's been for a while for me now, where someone can tell you that they like this song, or they've been impacted by these words. I mean, that's like all I ever want. But in life, in your like real world life, healing is there's more to it than that. And I think I didn't fully comprehend that maybe until a few years ago. So both of us write songs to deal with stuff. How do you decide which ones make the record and which don't? Because you write a lot of songs, and Big Time Baby, which, I mean, I love this album because I've told you this more than once, only has 10 songs on it. So, and you write a lot more than that. How do you decide what you are cool with other people hearing versus what, I don't think I want people to hear that one? So what I did for that album, what I've done in the past is like, because I sort of was asking myself the same question. I was like, I don't really know. I mean, there were some where it's like I'd been playing them out, been getting really good reception. I was like, well, clearly, let's say these 5 are going to make it. But what do I do about the others? Because there's maybe 10 that I feel like are album-worthy tracks. Do they fit on this album? Whatever. And this is where like my corporate brain probably popped in, but it's like, I was like, I'll make a spreadsheet. So I just like made a spreadsheet and just like did some gut rankings of the songs. I was like, okay, whatever, there's 50 songs here, 1 to 10. And I just went through, and then I like sorted by how I ranked it. And he maybe adjusted a few things. And I was like, no, that kind of makes sense. These are the strongest. And it's not necessarily that The Strongest always made it to that album. Because there was also this sort of like, does it fit conceptually? Does it sit right well along these other songs? How many songs in 6/8 can I put on one record? Which is a question I often have to ask myself. But
there is no limit.
Thank you. That's what I feel in my heart. I really want to get, as like the next time I do a merch run, I want to get mugs that say "My heart beats in 6/8." But that's a ways off. I gotta figure out how to tour with a child and how to sort of have a have a brain again, because right now it's really day to day. But yeah, I think it's a mixture of like, okay, what songs are good enough for the album, and then what songs fit. I don't know if you find it to be that.
There are songs I don't think are good enough for anyone to hear at all, and nobody ever hears those.
Sure, yeah.
But we have a lot in common. I make a spreadsheet for everything.
Yeah.
I use Google Sheets these days because it's in the cloud, and I don't want to pay Microsoft for Excel, right? Good enough to share one. Also, maybe this is our generation, even though I'm a full decade older than you, but we are at least old enough that we both still believe in the album as an art form in and of itself, where like, the new generation doesn't care anymore.
Right.
So you want to like tell a story and take people through a journey, and sequencing kind of matters when you're trying to do that. And I'm sure you've had the experience where there's songs that you really like and you're like, it can't go on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah. I have like a handful right now that I'm like, I'm not sure how, when, but like these have to see the light of day. Yeah, it's the album as an art form is such an interesting thing, because sometimes I ask myself how much of that is connected to my own nostalgia for the albums of the past, and I think probably a lot of it. But really just like a larger body of work, and just sort of teasing out from the art from like the commercial side of things, which is on one hand really complicated, on another like very simple. It's like, did you write this for the market, or did you not write this for the market? And sadly for my wallet, I've never written for the market.
Which is weird, because I feel like your music's really, you don't write pop music, but I feel like it could be, if that makes sense.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I definitely don't try to alienate, and I don't write like incredibly quirky stuff either. I guess I just mean like during the process of it, are you looking at current trends in pop songwriting, or, country, or like hip hop, whatever kind of the big players are today, and like for
I don't
young
do
people?
That.
No,
I want to make the music I want to make, right? So if what's trendy manages to fit in the kind of music I dig, then yeah. But at the moment, it doesn't. And I'm going to write the songs I want to write. I guess that makes me stubborn, right?
Yeah, I think maybe it just makes you, an artist, which is not to say that people that, write more trend aware aren't artists. It's just that they're also commercial minded, and yeah, they're just two separate things. And I think I've been making more and more peace with that, of like, or maybe it's not peace with that, but peace with like my decision of like, I don't want to change what I have to say or who I am to like fit in somewhere. Like,
and you shouldn't have to. Your songs are good enough. Your record's really good. And
thanks, Mike.
It's not like you didn't do any marketing work. You shot a whole bunch of videos for it.
I did. Yeah, that was super fun. That was fun. That was like, I guess that was a few months before everything shut down. We did a bunch of one-take videos. My friend Matt Marlinsky, who's a great videographer, he just came to our apartment, and I think 5 or 6 songs maybe, we did these one-take conceptual videos, because I thought I do like the kind of video as a medium and like as an opportunity for sort of creative expression. And I guess, to your point, it's also important for marketing. And I understand why that is. So yeah, that was fun. That was fun to do. That's a thing I think I'd do again. But man, the idea, an album is such a marathon, and we all have trauma from the pandemic in varying degrees, some like little t, some big T, but we all have, lives that sort of ended and then a new thing started. And I think I still feel very tender about making an album because I did cancel shows, never got to tour it. And I'd put so much into it. So it's just, maybe it's a sort of gun shy feeling, but I'm writing all the time. And I think that sometimes with creativity, I feel like I'm just kind of letting the artist side of things sort of lie fallow for a bit. Let's let it all go run wild and just, I'm going to be me and live my life, and we'll see where things are on the other side. I'm still writing all the time, so I'm like keeping that muscle going, but it's just with a pure sense of like fun and play. And we have to write songs and send them in once a week on Wednesday nights. And we get a one-word prompt. This woman, the songwriter Lacey Williams, organizes it. And it's a small group, and we just email out songs and lyrics. And so Wednesday night's like my writing night, but because of life and parenthood and teaching and my business, it's like, it'll be 9 p.m. and I think, oh my God, I have to write a song. And I'm so tired. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to write a song in 20 minutes. I'm going to just crank it out. And my approach has really shifted out of necessity. What's your process like with writing?
You're saying this to someone who hasn't written a song since March, which is terrible.
That's not terrible. That's this calendar year. You're good.
So I'm in a similar group. I'm in that 5 and 5 with Sarah Spencer, which I believe you are as well, right?
Yeah, I've done a few of those. Yeah.
I think it's great because when I'm busy, I don't put aside the time to write. And if you're going to join a group where there's an accountability like yours, like Sarah says, you got to write a song every day for 5 business days. Doesn't matter if it's good. You just have to get it done. I find that the prompts take me to places I otherwise probably wouldn't have gone. Mm-hmm. And because I'm weird and contrary, like I can look at her prompts and be like, I feel like she's kind of herding all of us into this happy spring song, right? Or this warm fall song. So I know what she's trying to do with some of the words, but then I'll take those words and make something dark and depressing. That's a comment on modern society or life. And
yeah, 100% my instinct too.
And it ends up being like pretty good, usually. Hey, this is Mike in post-production. I cut out a lot of the conversation here because it was Lesley asked me a question and I talked about myself way too much. But if you really want to hear it, go sign up for Lesley's Patreon. She might be putting up the unabridged, unedited version of this conversation later. All right, back to the conversation.
When you have a project you care so much about and you put so much of yourself into, it's, like there's a piece of yourself in that at all the time. It's emotionally a lot. It is.
And then I'm sure you know this, but like as soon as it's done, then I have to start thinking about marketing plan. So I need to like count 6 to 8 months ahead and be like, all right, what's the best? Yeah, it's just.
Yeah. That's the hard part for me. And that's always been, what's been interesting is like transitioning to, like building my own kind of business, helping other teachers, and having so, it's so easy to do marketing for things that aren't your art when that's what you're comparing it to. Like, it's because it's so hard when the product is yourself.
Yeah.
When it's yourself and your like vulnerabilities, your creative expressions. Whereas what I do now, and maybe it's like a lesson to learn about marketing yourself as an artist, but like what I do now, it's all about like my audience, like, what can I do for you? You. And that's so much more fun to talk about than like me. So that's been a really nice kind of welcome shift to get out of my own head for a bit, and work on something with a little more structure. And I also just, I love teaching. And so thinking about teaching has been cool.
Can I drop If Love Doesn't Change You into the track here?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's my favorite song on the record.
I love that. That's like one of my favorite songs on the record, too. And I definitely did not anticipate anyone feeling that way.
Oh, it's great. Actually, my favorite songs on the record are your two slowest. Is Love Doesn't Change You, followed by Not Tonight. And that's just, I think it's brilliant.
Thank you.
I'm going to put that in the outro music.
Little bit older, but wiser the same. A little bit sad, but I've just me to blame. I broke what I had for the allure of the thrill. If love doesn't change you, and loneliness will. A glass of your strongest, no matter the taste, here's to one I loved longest, and let go to waste. If only we darkness of after, I could see it for miles. Now I've just got this memory of a man that was good. If love doesn't change you, well, maybe it should. take what we have for. We know not how to give. I don't know if love's changed me. I don't know if love's changed me. I don't know if love's changed me. But I pray that it will.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember. I think just the line, if love doesn't change you, then loneliness will, sort of came to me. I often, like on my lunch breaks or whatever at work, I would just kind of walk around. I worked right across from Madison Square Garden in New York City, and I would just walk all around, for an hour and kind of sing stuff into voice memos. And, I do a lot of, and I sort of always have done this, a lot of just kind of like improvising lyrics to like find what sticks, kind of just like letting the faucet run until it kind of runs clear and like something good comes through is sort of channeled through. And those lines just sort of stuck out to me. And yeah, it's, I think I was really chewing on a lot of stuff at that time, just, finding the work that I was doing not incredibly meaningful, sort of that, I guess it's I was a little too old for a quarter life crisis. Maybe it just sort of was delayed for me, but where's my place in the world? And I don't know. I think it's sort of, it felt like a little bit of a prayer for me. Especially at the end where sort of it ends with, I don't know if love's changed me, but I pray that it will. Just sort of, what's the nature of love? Not romantic love, but, I don't know.
An evergreen songwriting topic. You can go everywhere with that.
Yeah, it felt kind of hymnal, and it felt kind of like a song that already existed, that I kind of pulled from the air. Yeah, I think I was looking for some direction.
Let's get in the time machine. What was your first instrument? How did you get started doing the music thing?
My first instrument was piano. And because my dad was a singer, and my mom was musical too, they actually met. She was choreographing an opera that he was doing, and she had done a lot of directing and acting and singing, and so we had instruments around, and there was always a lot of singing. And when we moved back to the States, we got a piano, a Baldwin upright piano, and my dad would use it for learning repertoire and warming up and all that stuff, and started to teach me on it. And then after maybe a year or so, kind of just learning from him here and there with a book, I started taking lessons and did the classical piano stuff. And then was always singing too. I took sort of some lessons from my dad, some lessons in college, but most of my singing knowledge came from like choral settings, sort of group settings. And then guitar was just one of those things you pick up, in your 20s. And I was like, that's fun to write songs on this too. And then ukulele, I think, just came from teaching little kids that wanted to learn the ukulele. And that's sort of, don't do a ton of writing on that, except sort of out of necessity, because I sort of don't know how to not write ukulele songs on a ukulele. I haven't figured that out. But I feel very Yeah, very connected to like the piano in a I mean, I'm a far better pianist than I am a guitarist. I hardly call myself a guitarist. I play it well enough to accompany myself, especially when you're kind of playing with great guitar players. I'm like very reluctant to call myself that, but
don't you live with one?
Yeah, he is more of the yeah, he's a fantastic guitarist. He's not a rock guitar guy though. He's not like a shredder, although he was just expressing a desire to not to shred, but to kind of work a little bit more on his soloing stuff. But yeah, Chuck plays a lot of instruments, most of them far better than I do. Yeah. What was your first instrument?
Bass. But I got started late. I was 20-ish. Mm-hmm. And I took piano in my late 30s. In fact, I was definitely older than you when I took my first piano lesson.
That's awesome.
I mean, never too late to learn, right?
No. Do you still play piano some? Did you keep it?
Strangely enough, we have one. My wife's parents got rid of their upright, so I got one. Nice. I practice on it and I use it to relax. My writing piano is just a little 60-something key electric, but I write on the piano mostly because, as you know, I do make rock music and I just can't give a guitarist a bass line. Would you say you're a music person first or a lyrics person first?
Do you mean in terms of what comes first?
Yeah.
Or?
So let's say you're going to write a song in 5 minutes. You're not, because we're talking. But if you were, what would you do first? If
I was going to write quickly, I would, well, not if, because I do this almost weekly at this point. Sometimes I spend more time than that. But like lately, I feel like I've been writing these 10, 20-minute songs, which to their credit, like I think you might believe that someone spent, I don't know, upwards of an hour or two on them.
You could always revise. They'll be there later.
They will. Yeah, I think speed-wise, I mean, what I do is I just come up with a little 4-chord pattern, sing a little melody over it, then I got my melody, and then I just kind of sing some words until something fits, and then I kind of write from that. That's my speed kind of method. But, and I guess that's just sort of a faster version of my non-speedy method. It's probably the same, but I think I'm a lyrics first person in the sense that I think I'm a better lyricist than I am a composer.
Yeah, I think that's the word, composer.
That's the word. Yeah. I think I care a little bit more about it. You know, I care a lot about both, but like I really care about the lyrics.
What's the hardest part for you? Is it the coming up with that progression for the chords? Is it the melody? Is it your lyrics? Like, where do you bang your head?
The hardest part is my answer that I don't mean to be flippant is like,
be flippant is okay.
Is the hardest part is finding something I like, writing something I like. Like, it's not hard for me to write a song. It's not hard for me to write a song. I can write bad songs till the cows come home, or like, not say bad, but just like uninspired or trivial or just like mediocre, just fine. But I think writing something that feels really thoughtful, but not overwritten. That's a balance I'm always trying to find. And, you know, I think overwriting is a thing I've struggled with in the past, just kind of like working it too hard, kneading the dough too much, putting like too much stuff in there that like no one's gonna find, and like it's having too many lyrics, that kind of thing. And this process of writing real songs really quickly has helped me work through that a little bit and like kind of move a little bit more with my gut rather than be kind of stuck in my head in this sort of cerebral place about it.
How do you know when it's done? So, like, when do you know it's time to walk away from the song? Like, you're finished.
Oh, that's such a great question. I think when, like, there's only one thing that bothers you. Maybe that's the answer, because there's never not.
That is so true.
When you've got it down to like one thing that you're like, oh, that's just not the right word. Or, oh, I don't, did I figure out this structure? Whatever it is. I think it's harder to know that than it is to know when you're done recording wise. I think that's easier to know because it's the instinct is sort of there where you're just like, okay, we're just going to turn off the triangle track. I think we're good. I love me some triangle, but sometimes I don't know. It's like getting ready to go out and you get dressed up, and the advice I've seen given, particularly I think to women or people that like accessorize a great deal, is sort of look in the mirror and then the first thing that you see, take off. So like if you are wearing a really clunky bracelet or like a leopard print scrunchie, for example, it's just like not too much, basically.
One, I've never used triangle in a song, and now I have to.
Oh, it's so great.
Have to. Two, when you listen to Big Time Baby, do you still hear things that you wish you'd done differently?
Oh my gosh, yes. Especially vocals.
That's hilarious, because I think you actually know how to sing. When's the last time you sat down and listened to it straight through?
It was definitely after my son was born, but maybe 8 months ago, something like that. I think in the car. I don't know if I got it straight through, but I think I did eventually. And I was like, oh, this is not bad. I don't think I can listen to it again anytime soon, but this is not bad. Like, this was good. Yeah, it can be hard to listen to your own stuff.
Yeah. I think you should go listen to it again. I think it's really good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I like it. I think I felt emotionally, I think the point in time when I was releasing it, I was just emotionally not in a great space. And so like listening to it sometimes brings me back there, or historically, I guess, it's like it came out in 2020. It's not ancient history, but
for Generation Z kid, they would never listen to a record that old. So yeah,
that's true. Yeah. So, and I made a few like press CDs, but I never made CDs when I figured that touring wasn't going to be possible. I was like, well, I'm not going to do anything right now, and we'll just see what happens. And then of course it all dragged on, and then I was pregnant and then had a baby. And so, but I remember listening to it and I was like, I stand by this. It was the way that I tracked it. It was the musicians on it we had a drummer that came in for 2 days to track everything. And then me and the producer, played kind of almost all the instruments. And then Chuck came and did some keys, and organ stuff on a few of the tracks, and sang on Preacher. We're doing the duet.
That video is pretty great, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that was fun. We did it's like Sonny and Cher kind of Top of the Pops feel. That's what we wanted to do. Just like really lean into the duet kind of thing. But it was a very intimate recording process. And I think I sort of captured that, and I think it was right for those songs. And I had come in with pretty fully fleshed out demos for everything. I think Preacher was the one that Joe, the producer, put the most work into, kind of fleshing out a little bit more. But I had a really clear vision for the songs, which I'm grateful that I did. I don't know if that's what'll happen on the next project, but definitely a moment in time of my life.
You mentioned that you teach. We haven't really talked about that in detail. So let's talk about that. You also wrote a book,
Yes.
which has to do with your teaching. So
Yes.
this is the point in time. And see, I haven't actually seen you in person since you started doing all this stuff. So this is the point in time where I'll shut up and let you catch us all up on the teaching in the book.
I mean, like a lot of musicians, I teach lessons, and right out of college, I taught piano lessons. And actually, that's where I met my husband. He was teaching for the same school. And then we moved to New York. I did the corporate world for 7 years, 8 years. And when I left that in 2018, I was like, it looks like I'm teaching lessons again. And then started teaching on guitar and ukulele as well. Pandemic hit, started to go more virtual and remote. And I just sort of came to this realization when my son was a couple months old. I was like, I teach lessons. That's like how I've earned a lot of my income these past few years. It's not what I anticipated. I thought I'd be able to be touring and playing more shows and on the road, but that's how I'm making my money. And almost all the musicians I know teach or have taught at least a lesson. Or maybe they've wanted to, or there's some they're like, I don't teach. That's not what I want to do. Great, that's fine. But so many people do it and kind of no one talks about it because it's not glamorous, or because, there's this myth that somehow it's like a sign of being a failure as an artist if you teach. We have so little respect for teachers in this country. Which is like a whole other conversation. But I started to talk to teacher friends of mine, and I originally just wanted to build some resources for teachers. I thought, okay, I'll put together like a kit that they can take with them to lessons or have in their home studio, just like some basics. And I was like, no, they can like assemble their own stuff. But as I was talking to a lot of people, I started to get this like idea of like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll make a little lesson planner, like a little notebook where they can prep for lessons. And as I talked to people about it and did more and more research, it became clear that there's a lot of information out there for music teachers, but most of it is for the students that they teach. There's a lot of resources for students, different worksheets that you can print out, different songs. It's like you've got a middle school soprano. Here's some repertoire for them. I mean, it's really very PC. And there's not a ton of great stuff out there explaining just like at a super high level, what are we doing when we're teaching a music lesson? And how do you teach a music lesson? How do you structure it? How do you feel good about it and bring your full self to the lesson so that you're not like fragmenting who you are, part musician, part teacher, but like never totally yourself? That was a theme that came up a lot when I talked to people. Like they felt like when they're teaching, they can't be themselves. They have to be this like formal, prim, proper teacher. And if they're at a show, they couldn't be like, oh, I also teach lessons if anyone's interested, like, because that wasn't cool or something. And it's just this sort of artificial barrier I recognized that I was putting up inside myself, and was hearing from other musicians that they were. And so I just started writing, and I wrote a book that's really kind of a all-in-one how-to guide, workbook, resource library, lesson planner for musicians who want to teach or who already teach, but want to have better lessons and want to feel better about it and want to be prepared and not have to reinvent the wheel every time. And it's been a total labor of love and came out of left field for me as a project. And interestingly enough, because I wrote it in the fall of last year, and I printed it in December of last year, and I was doing like in January of this year, some sort of reflecting on 2021, what I wanted to do differently. And I found what I had done the year previously, what I had thought about, reflected on, set goals. And I had said somewhere that I don't even remember writing. I was like, I want to write a book this year. And I definitely was not thinking about writing a book for people who teach music lessons. But it's funny how these weird little intentions we set that we might even forget about, or maybe just like desires, if we just kind of keep following the thread, we can get to it. So I've gone through a bunch of different things, but it's called the Teaching Artist Toolkit. And I have a book, and now I have a course and a group coaching program for musicians who want to teach and want to feel like they know what that means and show up confident and just, how do you distill all the knowledge, the musical knowledge in your head and pace it out in a way that keeps the student engaged and motivated and interested and is without overwhelming them. So I feel passionate about teaching and about what a good lesson is. And I just wasn't seeing anyone really explain these things. So I thought, I'm just going to do it. And it's been really fun.
So let's say someone wants to meet you in person and hear you discuss this topic, say in an air-conditioned room on the third or fourth story of a large urban hotel.
Just say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where might one be able to do that in 3 weeks?
So I will be in Austin at CD Baby's DIY Musician Conference. I will be speaking there, and it's so cool because that's where we met Mike, and that's where I met a lot of musicians that I stayed in touch with over the years. Several years back, I attended it 2 years in a row, and it was in Nashville. And sadly, it's not in Nashville anymore because that would be so convenient. But
some of us are okay with it being in a different place.
You know what? Honestly, I am too, because it's going to be the first time that I am alone without the baby.
What? Chuck and the baby aren't coming?
No.
Okay.
I think it would be, it's a lot traveling with him, one. And
you mean the baby, not Chuck?
No, I mean, no, I mean the baby. It's a lot. And we actually have to travel to see family earlier in the month. So it was just way too much. But flip side, Mama's going to have a little time. So I am going to be giving a talk on that Sunday morning at 10:45 a.m. About all the things that I said, how to structure a lesson, how to bring your whole self to the table, really just how to rewrite the story of what teaching lessons means so that you can see it as an extension of your own artistry and not something in another box like, I'm a musician, but I also teach lessons. I'm a musician, but I also wait tables. I'm a musician, but I work a day job. It's like, no, I'm a musician and I teach lessons because that's part of what this is. Yeah.
Hey, so musicians out there, you should definitely go to this conference. I'm going. This will be my fourth one. The education is great. It's in Austin, Texas this year. That's a pretty cool city with delicious food, foremost of which is barbecue. That's kind of what they do in Texas. But delicious food, lots of music. Like the music scene in Austin is booming. And if you look in the show notes, Lesley has a specific link that you can click on to get tickets. Click on the link in the show notes, and if you don't have your ticket yet, get your ticket. And Lesley and I will both see you in Austin. Come find us. We're harmless. We like to talk to other musicians. Y'all are our people if you make music, really.
Yeah, and try a different language and try a different language. One of us will probably have it covered.
Yeah.
It's a romance language.
Have you written a song in Italian yet?
Oh, such a good question. I started to, actually.
Why did you not finish? You said started. That means you didn't finish.
I didn't finish it because, oh my gosh, I should do that for one of my weekly challenges. Oh, but that would feel so vulnerable. But maybe that's why I should do it.
It's kind of the point. Also, I mean, here's the thing. You said you have a degree in Italian, like you studied this. Mm-hmm. You lived there. How long were you there when you lived there? 5
months, I think.
Oh, that's enough to be fluent because, 5 months, you need enough Italian to, get to the taxi and get to the grocery store.
Well, and I've been tutoring it over the pandemic, too, which has been great and I think has definitely helped me get back to near fluency.
There needs to be a song. You still dream in Italian?
I don't think so. Man.
See, that's how you know you have it, because that's your the conscious bit of you is not in the way, right? So, like, if you dream in it, that means your brain really gets it.
Interesting. I feel like I have a ton of dreams and dream analysis. This is like very much at the forefront of my mind these days. But to hear you ask that, I just realized I don't think, like, I can't remember English being spoken in my dreams. I feel like the communication that happens in my dreams is not of that type.
This is venturing into science fiction. I love it.
Well, I just feel like it's things are communicated, but I don't know.
I ask because I feel like the languages I've learned, I didn't really feel like I learned them until I realized that I was dreaming in them. And I mean, there's no way to verify this, but I feel like my grammar is probably a lot better in my sleep than it is when I'm awake. But I have friends that are French speakers only or Spanish speakers only, right? So if I dream about those people, they talk to me in the dream in whatever language they talk to me in life.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, I would like to think I speak with a much better accent in my dreams. The reason I say this is I've done a couple of podcasts in French and I listen back and I'm like, oh God, my accent's terrible. But I live here, so what am I going to do,
What are you going to do? Also, it's more, you speak multiple languages. That's pretty cool.
But I have perfectionist tendencies, so.
Sure. Yeah. To be expected.
You have a song on your record called Nashville.
Yeah.
In 30 seconds, tell me what that's about. Like, I know, but you're not telling me. You're telling the listeners. In 30 seconds,
sure.
Tell the listeners what that's about.
Nashville is about, it's just sort of, as a song, it's the slow realization that the things you sort of think about other people are often what you're thinking about yourself. Is what the song was, actually. But it's about finding your place in the world. I wrote it about someone else, and it's definitely about me. I realized much after the fact.
This is a fantastic life imitates art instance. And listeners, I encourage you to go listen to this song on Big Time Baby. The protagonist has lived in Nashville and now lives in New York City. And there's a lyric that, there must be a reason this person's not in Nashville. Lesley and Chuck have done the exact opposite. Where they were in New York City and now they live in Nashville. You've done a reverse Nashville.
Pulled the old reverse Nashville, yep.
So it's been, 2 years, 2.5 years you've been there now?
Coming up on 2, yeah.
You comfortable?
In a lot of ways. We are, I think, we miss family a lot. It was very much during a pandemic and then with an infant, hard to meet people. But I think we're starting to kind of get out of that bubble. So I don't know if comfortable is the right word, but I am enjoying myself.
I mean, Nashville's a big city, but it's not New York big city.
No.
Like, it's a big city to a lot of people in this country.
I know.
But it's not New York.
Yeah, it's funny because my first reaction is like, it's so different not living in a city. Like, that's my...
Yeah, but it totally is a city. It's just not
it's just,
that city.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we just don't live in an urban area.
You're out in the suburbs then.
Yeah, but we're in Nashville. And so it's... that's most of Nashville. So it's interesting. I'm used to walking a lot more. That's been...
oh, yeah. Welcome to the rest of the country, Lesley.
Yeah.
In most places, if you don't have a car, you are not going anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, there's been, it's all worked out. And we'll see what happens. Honestly, I think we probably have all stopped sort of predicting the future these days.
There's no point.
There's no point. But we like it, and it's nice to have some green space of our own for sure.
Oh yeah, I guess the city's got a lot of that concrete and brick and not so many parks.
No, yeah. So especially coming out of the pandemic, New York was a hard place to be.
I only have two more official questions, unless something pops in my head.
Sure.
Think as far back as you can remember. What was the first song that you can remember hearing?
Oh man, I feel like it was "Ring of Fire" by Johnny Cash.
Nice.
And my mother's from Maryland, but her whole family's from Virginia. So like total Southern family. And I just remember being in my grandmother's house, and she loved Johnny Cash, and he would put that on, or it would come on the radio or something. Somehow it was on, and we would be like jumping on her bed when we would come back like for visits.
That does not sound like a bed jumping song, but okay.
I think when you're a little kid,
any song's a bed jumping song.
Any song is a bed jumping song. Yeah. Yeah. That's the first thing. I'm sure it was some like opera, some aria that my dad was working on, but
you don't actually remember that.
I don't remember.
So that doesn't count.
Nope.
I wonder what it's like living with an opera singer.
Oh man, that is it's a whole other podcast.
We'll have to do that sometime. So my wife loves opera. I can't stand it. Now I respect the chops because like I can't sing like that.
Yeah.
So I respect the profession, but as an art form, it doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
Would I like to be able to sing like that? Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, it's funny. It's like, I mean, my dad likes it, but like, I definitely remember points where he was like, I like it, but I don't know. Yeah, it never, I could recognize it, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, that's the sound I need to hear more of. I was like, that's a sound I could probably hear a little less.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
All right, last official question. I thought of an unofficial one, but I'll ask this one first. And this one is not mine. I stole it from a podcaster here in Dayton, from a podcast that is now defunct called the Jam City Podcast. Thanks, Terry. I always give credit because I love him and I miss that podcast. But this question is, what did your childhood smell like?
Whoa, what a cool question. I want to say, gosh, that's really tricky. I feel like grass.
Not the smoking kind. Or was it the snow?
No, outdoor.
Okay.
Outdoor kind. Yeah, that's, man. Now, if it was like, what are the 5 smells? I'm sure they would start to get more interesting. But yeah, that's probably the overwhelming.
You could add 4 more. It's okay. Your childhood could smell like more than one thing.
That's true. I'll have to give that more thought. That's a great question, though.
What's it like being married to a musician was my other one I just thought of.
Oh, wow.
As a person who is married to someone who is married to a musician.
It's nice because we totally get it. But I'm sure there are times where both of us would love, like when the other person was talking about something, for it to be a break from that. But I think overall it's very helpful. I don't know. I was thinking about this earlier, and neither of us know anything else, sort of like.
Good point.
It's a very different lifestyle, and it's a very challenging lifestyle in a lot of ways. But the joy that was so missing and when I was working in the corporate world. It just makes it worth it.
That's awesome. So where can people find you?
They can
online?
find me on all the usual places. It's Lesley, Lesley Barth. I guess you'll probably see that wherever you're listening to. But you could find me at lesleybarth.com, on Spotify. And then for the book and the course, it's the teachingartisttoolkit.com. And Instagram, same thing for both of those.
Excellent. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy mom schedule. This is like resting time, so I know it's important to you, and thank you for taking some of it for me in the podcast. I cannot wait to see you in 3 weeks.
Likewise, that'll be really fun. Thanks for this.
Drinks on me.
That's very kind of you. This was such a pleasure. I've done a few podcasts in the past few months, and I really enjoy like super conversational ones like this. So it's been super fun.
Thanks again to Lesley Barth for spending time talking to me. I'm glad you were here as well, dear listener. Really, and I'm serious here, do yourself a favor and listen to Lesley's latest album, Big Time Baby. It's very good. If you are a musician, definitely get a ticket and come see us in Austin, Texas in 3 weeks for the CD Baby DIY Musician Conference. Next Friday is episode 50 of my podcast. Yeah, 50. And I have a special, tastefully named guest for you. This time to take you out, as promised, here's Lesley Barth with Not Tonight.
Ice clinks in your glass as evening starts to pass. Those nighttime worries begin to disappear. A window opens up as you refill both cups. The cool breeze and the gin fight back our fears. We don't recall yesterday's sin. When morning comes, we'll sin again. We'll quit someday, but not tonight. His hand clings to your dress, and well, you know the rest. Those nighttime worries begin to disappear. Your phone begins to ring, that old familiar sting. But the fire in his touch fights back your fear. We don't recall yesterday's sin. When morning comes, we'll sin again. We'll quit someday, but not tonight. We don't